So today I took the JLPT N4 level exam, and it was my first JLPT exam of any level. And I thought that with the amount I'd learnt in the last year, N5 seemed a bit too easy. And when I booked the N4 exam, the criteria was a bit above what I thought I was capable of, so I thought I'll book that one in, I'll push myself, and we'll see where we get to. So today I went to London for the exam, and it was held at London University in central London, UK. And when I arrived, there was an absolutely enormous queue. I didn't realise how many people actually took this test. I knew it was the only official method of measuring Japanese proficiency, but you don't meet too many people learning the language out and about usually, so it's easy to underestimate how many people actually are studying the language and are actively trying to improve and get themselves graded. So when I actually arrived, I was probably about halfway down the queue, but obviously it doesn't really matter because you can't start until every single person's in there. So it took about an hour to get in and get seated and for the exam to actually start, so a little bit longer than planned. I think the exam was due to start at 1 o'clock or 1:15, and it started about 1:40. So again, not a massive problem, but that's how you do. So each level was broken into about 4 or 5 groups from what I could tell, and they were spread across all different rooms in all different buildings across the campus. So I was put into obviously my M4 group, and in the room there was maybe about 100 and 120 people sat in one room, and the seats were quite tightly packed, so it was a bit of a shuffle. The front of my table was touching the back of the seat of the girl in front of me, and then the back of my chair was touching the front of the table of the guy sat behind me, so it was a bit tight and trying to get in and out. So I guess in terms of if anyone's trying to cheat, it might make things a little bit easier, because it's very easy to just kind of even accidentally look at someone's paper, but I didn't. I promised I didn't cheat. Just an observation for whoever runs this thing, but no, it was all very good. Once we were sat down and everyone was quiet, the exam coordinators read out the rules and regulations for the test. The usual stuff, obviously turn your phones off, don't talk, don't have anything else on your desk besides your test paper and pencil. Even water bottles had to be put on the floor, and then we were given our papers. You get 3 answer papers in kind of like a little booklet, and with each section of the test you fill out the sheet, tear it off, and then the coordinators come and collect them at the end of the section. So we were given 3 sheets for 3 sections. There was the reading section, the grammar and language understanding section, and the listening section. So when the test started, I was fairly confident going in, and once I sat down there I was a little bit nervous, but when I started reading through the first questions, it actually started with kanji, which I'm fairly strong with, and the first 10 questions I'm 99.99% sure that I absolutely nailed them. And then going forward, there was 35 questions in total in the first section, so I'm certain I got about 25 of those correct, and the other 10 I'm like 90% sure I got right. So at the end of the first section I wasn't too worried. I was feeling good, I was in a good stride. So they have questions like the kanji is spelled out in hiragana and you have to choose the right kanji, or there is a kanji and you have to choose the right hiragana spelling for the kanji. And there's also things like you can pick, there's a word underlined in a sentence and you pick the alternative word, and something else, but I can't remember, so I'm sorry. It's very similar to the practice booklets that you've probably seen, and obviously I can't talk too much about the actual content of the test, as that would probably nullify my own results, so I won't be speaking about that, but it's more kind of the types of questions, and it's all the same as what you see on the JLPT site, where they've got 5 different practice exams for the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 levels, and so it kind of follows that format, so it's very, very similar to what you've probably seen already. If you haven't seen the official exams, then I'll put a link down in the description, and you know, it's worth checking out. It's actually, when you book the exam, it recommends you take whichever one you feel like you should be doing, and just do the practice 15 questions, and it'll give you a rough indicator of, you know, how well you can do them. Obviously 15 questions doesn't cover as many as the nearly 100 questions in the actual exam, but it's, you know, rough indicator, and you know, you should check it out. So the first section of the test was 25 minutes, I believe, and once I'd finished, we were allowed a 15-minute break, which was nice because even though the room was air conditioned, it was like 22 degrees in London today, and it was so hot, and I also drank a lot of water, so I really needed the toilet. So anyway, I took care of that. That was fine, and then 15 minutes later returned for the second part of the test, which was the grammar and language understanding ability, or something to that effect. These questions were much more grammar focused, obviously, but it was a lot of reading large sentences and then maybe comprehending the message of several sentences strung together. So instead of just being, you know, what is this question asking, it might be 3 or 4 sentences, and you've got to extract the meaning and then maybe answer questions about that, and that was quite tricky. It was an hour long in total, so when it started there was the same amount of questions as the first section. Section 1 had 35 questions, I believe, and Section 2 had 35 questions, so foolishly I thought, oh, an hour, that's great, you know, the first one took 25 minutes, and you know, I had a bit of time to spare, so this one should be a lot easier. It wasn't. It really wasn't, and maybe that's just for me. I do read a lot of Japanese. I try to on a daily basis, but you can never be completely prepared for what you're going to find in these exams, obviously. And some of them, especially the last 4 or 5 questions in the exam, were really tricky, as they had paragraphs really of text that you had to read, and it was kind of 2 people sharing opinions about something, or, you know, it might be like a poster for an event, or a guy trying to buy a train ticket, or I don't know, something. Those are all examples, by the way. I can't actually remember what the questions were, I'm so frazzled. So that was pretty tricky, and that kind of shook my confidence a bit as the hour kind of loomed over me in the last like 3 or 4 minutes. I still had about 6 questions unanswered that I'd read through quite a few times, and I kept putting off, and I was darting back and forth through the questions, and I believe when the section ended, I had 2 answers unanswered, should I say. So it was kind of I just threw 2 random checks in the box, and I don't know, I really don't think I got them right, but you know, there's a 1 in 4 chance that paid off. But I couldn't read it all and do it all in an hour, so I definitely advise practicing on bulk reading and general speed before the exam, because it did catch me off guard, considering how much I practice. I was quite surprised, but you know, maybe I just don't practice hard enough, or I'm not practicing the correct way, or whatever. So that's something to bear in mind for anyone that's going to take it next time. So there was another 15-minute break after that, same again, and then back in for the last section, which was the listening section, and that was roughly for 35 minutes, roughly, but it was basically due to the length of the CD audio. When we were in there, we were given the final exam paper, and the guy at the front, he just played the CD, and then it just ran its course. There was I believe there were 4 sections inside the main section, but they broke up into different types of questions. The listening is really where I just fell to pieces. You know, I just haven't had enough exposure to listening to the language to really have any chance of understanding all these questions just first go. So, you know, that's just part of the course, that's just, you know, the experience I have. I'm sure there were people in there that understood it fine, And you know, the point of me taking the N4 was to push myself, and I knew the listening would definitely be the hardest part, so I can't be too mad. But I do kind of regret not really focusing on that a little bit more. But I probably don't focus on it so much because it's the hardest thing to do. So, hey, I'm just lazy, I guess. When Section 3 starts, it's playing on an audio CD, so it doesn't stop, basically. Each mini section is introduced with an example question, so the narrator reads the question, and then there's usually like a little skit of two people talking, or, you know, someone talking about something, and then you've got either pictures to, you know, make observations about and get the right answer, or you've got to pick the correct sentence for a certain scenario, things like that. But it's tricky because if your listening skills aren't up to scratch, like mine certainly aren't, then when the questions actually come, the narrator will read the question once, the skit will play, and then the question's read again. And the questions are usually easy enough because they're short questions, but there's so much uncertainty in the skits that it's very difficult to know that you've got the right answer. Even if you know what the question was that was asked, and you heard everything that was in the skit, for me, having that time to properly process all the little nuances of the question or the conversation, I'm not overly confident that I passed this section, unfortunately, and you know, we'll see what happens. But you know, that's just what happens, and you know, if I fail, then I can always take it again, or you know, maybe I'll study harder, or I'll wait till I'm ready for N3, maybe next year, something like that. So that's pretty much it. My experience of, you know, first JLPT exam. I didn't really know what to expect going into the exam in terms of question content. I had a good idea from the practice exams, but obviously you know, you're never going to know, otherwise it wouldn't be a very good exam. Overall, I'm proud of myself for achieving the ability to even take that test in a year. However, I'm disappointed that I didn't feel as comfortable doing it as I should have. Maybe, I don't know, I feel like I could have studied harder, or there was silly things that I couldn't remember. You know, I did suffer a lot of blocks at places, and in some sections, the questions I just knew instantly, so there was no lingering. I just read the question and answered it instantly. The ones I didn't know, I really struggled with. There didn't seem to be many where I kind of knew the answer and I was just struggling a little bit. You know, there was a lot of ones where I just read the question and I just couldn't make sense of it. You know, I had a few clues from the grammar and the words being used, but they're always worded in such a way that there could be two answers, and I spent a lot of time just dwelling over that, especially in the second section with the 60 minutes. Like I said, it got to the end and I just had to put 2 random answers in for some because I ran out of time and I just couldn't read it all in that hour. So yeah, that's it. Good luck to anyone that took it as well. I don't know if anyone that went to the London one is going to watch this today, but hey, if you did, then cool. You know, I hope you did better than I did, because I'm not too sure. Results don't get announced until October, unfortunately, so they're incredibly cruel, just making you wait like that. I would have thought they could just feed these sheets into a machine and they'd read all the little ticks and say wrong or right, but no, that's not how it happens. So imagine they're going to be packed into shipping crates and sent on a 6-week voyage to Japan, at which point some old wizards will descend from a mountain and slowly but surely go through each result one at a time, and then they'll upload the results to some kind of online portal, which we've already been given the password for. You actually get that when you sign up to the exam. So I guess they'll email when the results are ready to view. I can log in and see. So maybe I'll talk about that when that happens. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to get some much needed sleep because I'm exhausted, and yeah, until next time.